Hey, there are a lot of elements behind getting a job and proving your worth. There are resume writing, interview skills, social presence, having a good, you know, look when people are Googling you, etc. There are a lot of pieces to this, but one of the things that is discussed a lot in cybersecurity is certification. And so let's delve into that in this episode, into certification, the value of it, and what other things are important. So, certification is one of three tiers that I'm thinking about during hiring somebody. Education, certification, and experience are the things I'm looking at. If the person is entry level, I don't need any of those. If it's an entry level job, then any of those are a bonus. I don't expect an entry level anybody to come in with education, certification, or experience. That being said, if I'm hiring a mid level engineer or a senior level engineer, then I'm going to expect a certain level of experience, education, and certification. And they all have different value to me. So, uh, first of all, let's talk about what I consider a mid-level and a senior level engineer. I consider a mid-level engineer generally as someone who has 5 years or more of experience, and a senior level engineer as someone who has generally more than 10 years of experience. There are some mitigating factors. The biggest one is the kind of jobs you have. The kind of experience you have. Because if you have 5 years of experience and you are just really just handling help desk support for 5 years, and never actually touching the infrastructure, never touching the networks, never touching the hosting environments, never implementing any projects, then to me, your skill set died at about 2 years. You may be really good at help desk, but if you're trying to move out of help desk to do something else, your kind of experience kind of stopped there. So I've interviewed people with like 20 years of experience on help desk. They're great at customer service, but as far as technical skills, I can take someone with 2 or 3 years and they're pretty much equivalent. It's like you're not continuing to progress. There are exceptions. Uh, if you're at an MSP, which is dealing with a lot of different stuff, and they have different help desks that are really giving you challenging stuff, and you're handling top tier escalation, server support, etc., then it does qualify for more. Being help desk gives you a little bit more. So value. But still, help desk is something that generally uh you either start in and move out of, and it's kind of like your entry level place to get your feet wet, or if you career in help desk, it's because you're really good at customer service, and that's what you want to be. It's really you're good at customer service, and if you're in that role for a really really long time, that's kind of where I'm typecasting you, in that service role, because you've demonstrated extended ability to serve people. Now, I've had people that come in with 1 or 2 years of experience or have applied when I'm looking for mid-level and I specify 5 years or more, and they come in with 1 year and they say I'm mid-level, and I'm like, well, you've worked for 1 year or worked for 2 years. How do you mean to me, you're still junior, very junior level. We can maybe not be entry level now, but you are still learning, dude. Or do that, like, you have a long way to go. So some people just, I remember I was this way. In my first couple years, I worked as first a webmaster, then as a support engineer, and then as a knock engineer. And in my first 2 years, so I was in the data center working with servers and stuff in my first 2 years. I came out of that, with 2 years of experience thinking that I was able to do anything. And that was a great mindset to have. And but I remember at that time trying to go for very high paying jobs, in manager of this positions, manager of that positions. And I did get some offers. So like don't limit yourself. But as far as my perspective, if you're a 1 or 2 years of experience, you haven't been exposed to a lot of IT yet, especially if you're in an enterprise. To me, so this brings up another thing when I'm talking about best places to learn. An MSP or an MSSP to me are the best places to learn. To me, if you are in an enterprise or if you are in a hospital or something like that, you tend to be siloed. And I have never seen this not true with all the enterprises I've worked with. They silo people, you get really good at one thing. So if you want to go and continue your career in that one thing, that's great. But I interviewed a guy with 5 years of experience. He called himself a security administrator and worked at a hospital. And for 5 years, all he had been doing is installing antivirus and managing antivirus, like if there was one that wasn't working, pushing the updates to it, that kind of stuff. But using Symantec Endpoint Manager, managing antivirus for a hospital. That's all he did for 5 years. I asked him, do you know how to set up a new VM in VMware? No. Do you know how to join a machine to the domain? Do you know how to create a domain? No. Do you know how to identify vulnerabilities in Windows? No. How do you know what whether an Exchange server has been patched for the Hafnium patch? No, nothing there. Like just 5 years of experience installing antivirus and called himself a security engineer. So I'm really careful when I look at experience, what somebody has actually done. But in general, those are my go-tos. 5 years for a mid-level engineer, 10 years for a senior engineer. Yeah, so if I'm posting for a senior role, I'm pretty much not going to hire somebody unless they're with less than 10 years, unless they're a rock star. And there's a certain level of maturity that happens after having to deal with IT and security for 10 years. It's when I'm hiring for that senior level role, that's that maturity level I'm looking for. Yes, there are exceptions. You can be a 5-year person who has had a lot of rich experiences and really learned a lot and, are worth that senior level position. But in general, when I'm hiring that, I'm looking at people who have that level of experience because I know that I'm going to be able to expect those amount of life experiences and those work experiences from them. Now, that's experience. Certification. There's a lot of hemming and hawing about this. If you are afraid to take tests, I don't know what to say to you. I really don't. There are a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I wanted to take this cert. I've never taken a cert test. I'm just afraid." I've pushed certs a lot and gotten that response a lot. So, all I can say is get over yourself. Go in and fail it. Like go in and fail it and go in and fail it again. I don't care. Fail it. Get the cert done. At the company I work at now, we pay for any certification test somebody wants to take. So there's no expense to you to take it. And I know a lot of companies do that. Tell your boss you want to take this cert and say, I'll study on my own. Will you guys pay for the exam? Most companies will. So, if you're doing it on your own, some of them can be kind of salty. Microsoft 365 stuff is like $250 a cert. CompTIA similar, Cisco like 500, something like that. CISSP is like 1,000, so they're in that range. So they're not cheap, and you have to pay to renew them too. So it's an investment. So for certifications, figure out what is most valuable and most important for you to demonstrate that you know how to do, and then go get that cert. How I do the certs is identify what I want, and then I will pay for the cert, and then I will schedule the certification for about 90 days out, and then I will study for that cert until I go and take that exam. So if I say today I want to do the ISACA CISA, the what information security auditor, certified information security auditor certification by ISACA. It is a Pearson VUE exam, computerized. Go to the testing center or take it at home, whatever. I don't have a good testing environment at home, so I take it at this testing center. But pay for the test 90 days out and study for it. How do I study? LinkedIn Learning. You can get LinkedIn Learning of several different ways, sometimes through universities, sometimes through libraries. What I did here is that there's a library program if you're able to get Lydia or LinkedIn Learning access to a library discount or something like that. And there are several different versions, so I pay for like the lowest version, myself, of LinkedIn, so that I can get LinkedIn Learning. So once you have LinkedIn Learning, you can choose what you want to do. So say ISACA CISA. Find somebody's class and take it. Now, those are all free once you paid for LinkedIn Learning. Now, the next thing I do is Pluralsight. That Pluralsight is great for technical certifications. I'm not sure if CISA is on there, but almost every other technical certification is on there. So Pluralsight is very inexpensive. It seems salty for a year, but if you pay for it, I mean, it's just once a year. It's like a couple $100. Pay for Pluralsight, and you can study for any technical cert with Pluralsight. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of video training. So go through LinkedIn learning training, go through the Pluralsight training, YouTube. Look at people's YouTubes that have taken it, what their tips and suggestions are, stuff like that. Look at other people's study sites and blogs online. And, if there are study tests or anything available through the provider, take them. That's my method. And how I do a lot of that LinkedIn Learning is I have it in the car, and Pluralsight also. I have it playing from my phone through my Bluetooth in the car. Phone is down. I'm not looking at it. I'm just listening to it. And I'm driving. And during your commute or whatever, you're hearing the training that you need. And you do that for 90 days. Or, obviously it's not happening every day, but if you do that a lot, you're learning the stuff. And then if you need to cram on some visual stuff, beforehand, cram for a couple days beforehand and review stuff. Do a couple practice tests, but that's how I do it. So certifications. Now, what do certifications mean to me? Certifications are a objective, or it's a standardized way of determining whether you are able to have the base understanding of a topic. And usually the maturity in understanding enough to answer questions about that based on knowledge and understanding. So sometimes it's not pure understanding. Sometimes it's synthesis. It's with the understanding you have, can you do this? That kind of thing. But it's nowhere near the same as experience. Why are certifications valuable? Number one, it's a sign. It's okay. Not only do you have this experience, but you have a certification too. So you should have the understanding needed to do this job. Whereas sometimes the experience is not alignment with actual not in alignment with actual understanding. And I see that a lot where kind of like that guy with the antivirus. He's good at installing antivirus. And that was his idea of experience. So he had no certification either. But at least if he was saying I want to do something else and had a VMware cert, a Cisco cert, a Microsoft cert, something like I'd be like, okay, well, he has at least base understanding of this. He has experience doing this. Put it together, we'll go. But no, like with only that experience, you have no leg to stand on without a cert too. And then education. Education. When I talk about education, I don't talk about boot camps. Boot camps are worthless. Worthless. The purpose of a boot camp is to cram you for an exam. You will not remember anything from a boot camp a week later, or let alone a month later or a year later. A boot camp is a cram session for an exam. That's what a boot camp is. I will not consider when people say I took my CCNA boot camp, or my C# boot camp. It doesn't mean anything to me. In that case, it's your experience and your certs that mean more to me. And even then, your CCNA cert then loses value when I see a boot camp in your education, because I'm like, okay, the only reason you have your CCNA is you just crammed with the boot camp for your CCNA. You actually didn't learn anything from Cisco. So boot camps have negative value to me. So don't put them on any kind of application or resume or discuss them at all. To me, that's trash, and you are just saying that that's how you learn, is basically by cheating. Is to me, a boot camp is basically that. Other forms of education, Coursera, edX, other stuff like that, training that is not a normal university education, I give the same weight and value as university education. If you took a class through Coursera and it was through University of Michigan, to me, that class adds the same weight as if you took it through University of Michigan on campus. I having done enough of them and having done enough actual university classes as well as edX and Coursera classes, I understand that it's all about the work you put in. So to me, they have the exact value, same value. If you're able to futz through and get the Coursera or edX cert at the end of the class saying that you've completed all of the course content and all of the assignments, to me, that says that you've learned and earned that skill. So it's the same as a university. One of the things about university classes is they tend to lag. This has been changing a lot lately. So I guess it's not always just lagging, but usually in the old school university way, a new technology would come out. Somebody might learn it, then make a textbook about it, and then have a class and create a curriculum around it, and then start offering class. That cycle just took 3 years, and that technology you're learning is no longer the technology to learn. So, university a lot of times falls behind. When I say that's changed lately, they've quickened that cycle time. So I see offerings all the time from Harvard, from MIT, and stuff like that, from UPenn, that are offering amazing cutting edge classes that are, right now ChatGPT and stuff are the rage, and they're offering classes on, NLM and machine learning and modeling and stuff like that, and cutting edge AI. To me, that is showing that they're catching up. But what I'm looking at from university is completing a degree, whether it's your bachelor's degree or associate's degree, to me shows that you were able to complete something. So is your degree in philosophy? Is it in culinary arts? Is it in IT? To me, that doesn't matter, because if it was in IT, then you're outdated anyway. I generally think that university and IT would have taught you some concepts, and that's it. Um, Not really made you an expert in anything, but it did show that you're able to complete something that you start. Now, a master's program, this is where it kind of changes a little bit. So if it's through Arizona State or some certain ones, I might question it a little bit and ask you more questions about what you learned. But if it is through almost any other school, then I know that you've put in a certain amount of work for that degree. So I'm interested in learning what you learned and what was, the differentiator. I know, like with University of the People, I work constantly for that. I'm writing papers every week, and I'm doing for my MBA, and I'm doing coursework constantly. And I've learned a lot. It has completely changed the amount of, how I approach business. When people ask me what's the best thing about University of People, there are a couple things. University of the People uh, is really talking a lot about globalization, because it's a global university. Your classmates are from Uganda, from Vietnam, from China, they're all over the place. From India. You're going to school with people in class that are all over the world. Number one. So you're having to collaborate with team and give feedback to people that are in other cultures and get feedback from people that are in other cultures. So I think what University of the People prepares you for is international business and working in a global economy. Other things that they really push on are, um, you know, leadership and understanding organizational management and stuff like that, which I love that they're doing that, and also CSR, corporate, social responsibility, environmentalism, stuff like that. They are pushing on that a lot. So if you've gone through the time to, like, you cannot just pass those classes. Like, it's a full university class. A lot of time it is using curriculum from another university, and they're sponsored by major other, Big Ten universities. So, um, it is serious school. So I understand when people will say that they're going there, that they're actually working their butt off. Um, yeah, so the education, you know, I'm looking at it as an example of you doing something and being able to get it done. And if you have a master's program, it usually is showing that you're really able to work hard and get that done. But it also shows that you have a higher level of understanding of whatever you studied. So, experience, certification, and education. Out of these, in IT and cybersecurity, certification and experience are the important ones. Education means almost nothing in IT and cybersecurity until you become an executive. Then, when you become an executive, then those start to matter more. The business understanding from an MBA or something is more valuable, or going to business school is more valuable as a cyber exec than it is, anybody in, an engineer. An engineer, your experience on the front lines fighting an attack, and the certifications, considering that technology that you're using, are the most important things. But so those are the three biggest things: certification, education, and experience. And in cybersecurity and IT, I would focus on, experience and certification first, and pick up education as you go or later, but it's not as crucial. All right. Thanks, everyone.